Firearm lobbyists want changes made to the licensing of firearms. They want them controlled and licensed the same way as vehicles. Let's hear how they think this will work. Barry Batemen is following the story for us. He joins us now live from Pretoria. So Barry, critics, of course, might say that making it easier to register firearms is dangerous. What is the goal of this campaign?
Well, Shahan, on that concern that some people might have that this would allow more firearms to flood into the market, that's not quite the case. The same vetting procedures and competency certificate processes would still remain in place in terms of this campaign. The only difference that would entail is how the individual actually licenses and registers the firearm. This campaign is called a License the Person, Register the Firearm. And if you just look at the way we manage our vehicles and how we're licensed to drive vehicles, if firearms were, or cars were done the same as firearms, you would have to obtain a new license to drive a car every time you bought a new one. What the lobbyists are advocating is that the individual should be licensed. That person should go through the process to be vetted and get the competency certificates. But every firearm that they buy thereafter should simply be registered to their name, like a car is registered to the name of a person with a valid driver's license. They're saying that this would ease the burden. Now, this is the purpose of this campaign. They say this would ease the administrative burden on the SAPS at the Central Firearms Registry. They believe that it would, and this was also being part of the move towards digitization. At the moment, it's a paper-heavy process. They're also saying that a system like this, where it is digital, would be less prone to corruption. We have seen instances recently where lawful licenses are issued to people, or legitimate licenses are issued to people, but done so unlawfully, fraudulently in the background. They say that if it was digital through this particular process, it would be much better. Now, I spent the day at a shooting range, and I chatted to a couple of the people involved in this campaign. Take a listen to this.
It takes about 3 months to license a new firearm, with some cases taking up to a year to process. It also takes about 3 months to renew a license. The process is paper-heavy and places a significant administrative burden on the police. Firearm enthusiasts want to change that.
Physical documents are transferred by hand from station level to provincial and ultimately to national level for processing. It costs the police more than 100 million rand a year to administer. Gun advocates believe there is a far more efficient way to do this.
If we treated cars the same way we treated guns, it means you'd have to have a separate driver's license for every individual vehicle you owned, as opposed to the way now where you have a single driver's license and the vehicles you own are then registered under your name. This is exactly the core premise of what License the Person, Register the Firearm is. You would become the license holder as the individual, and your firearms are then placed on an electronic register under your name.
Gun Owners SA is also behind the drive.
We're not against background checks, but once you've done those background checks, you shouldn't be, doing them every now and again when you need to buy a new firearm.
The SAPS has conceded the firearm license application process is cumbersome. But the move to digital has been started.
Without creating any expectations, we have started. We're working together with our technology management services, with CETA, and we are working towards that. And we're working towards moving digitally or using technology in the fight against crime as well.
The lack of a deadline to implement the digitization process provides little comfort. Naidu says the License the Person, Register the Firearm idea is something the police are willing to consider. But he says it will require a proper consultation process and legislation for it to be implemented. Barry Batemen, Pretoria.